Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. This week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, December the 2nd, 2022. And on the front page, we have a great picture of some beautiful quilts. The Tangled Threads Quilt Guild held its 25th anniversary quilt show on Friday, November 25th and Saturday, November 26th at the Knox Presbyterian Church in Neepawa. So they had them laid out over all the pews, and anybody could come in and have a peek at them. And speaking of the quilt show, unfortunately they had one little problem. One of them was stolen, if you can imagine. If you see this dinosaur quilt or have any information about it, please call Lane at 204-476-3388 or text 204-212-0136 or contact the Neepawa RCMP at 204-476-7340. If you took this quilt because you need a blanket to keep warm, please call Lane and she will make you your own. And an important notice from the Neepawa Banner and Press: much like the rest of Neepawa and region as of late, the Banner and Press office has found itself dealing with a mass exodus of its staff all at once because of the flu. Due to these exceptional circumstances, the Banner and Press apologize if any of your contact with us this week in the form of advertisements, letters, thumbs up, or articles/pictures have been missed. We hope everyone, not just in our office, but everywhere, that is dealing with the flu outbreak or other illness will be feeling better sooner rather than later. Okay, so the first article is entitled Robo-server Arrives in Neepawa by Ken Waddell. The space age has come to Neepawa, and more specifically to Neepawa's Boston Pizza, in the form of a server robot. Most people haven't met this new robot, but those who have are glad they did. Amazingly enough, once programmed, the robot can deliver at least 8 meal orders in a single trip from the kitchen to a table, where potentially saves the server a couple of trips. On the clearing dishes side, a server can load up many plates and send the robot back to the dishwashing station while the server looks after another customer or clears tables. Neepawa Boston Pizza owners Andrew and Riordan Dennis hope it will make life easier for staff, and as they, like most restaurants, are faced with staff shortages, the robot will help a lot. The Boston Pizza robot looks like a 4-foot-high plastic cat. It talks to customers, objects if you stroke his ears, and asks if you can pat it on the head instead, and will also sing "Happy Birthday." The Neepawa Banner and Press watched the robot go through its paces as it traveled all around the restaurant delivering orders, and it didn't spill a drop. The robot will be on trial for a couple of weeks, but may well become a fixture at Boston Pizza. The Neepawa Banner and Press was told that staff are mostly favorable to having some robotic help. Anybody who has ever worked in a restaurant knows that saving steps and time is very important. Fewer steps means less fatigue at the end of the day, and that's always a good thing. The robot will wear down its battery but doesn't ever get tired. And this is Riordan and Andrew Dennis. I may come back to this page after if we have time. And same as with that. All right, I'm going to touch on Helen Drysdale's Out of Helen's Kitchen article. This week it's entitled Coleslaw. Coleslaw is one of those salads that people do not get excited about, and I think much of the reason is because of how it's typically served. Often coleslaw is drowning in too much dressing and has only cabbage and carrots. So let me help you get creative and serve it as the crunchy side dish your meals have been missing. Cabbage is nutritionally great in any diet due to its high levels of vitamins C and K, B6, and folate. It is locally grown and more economical to buy than fresh lettuce. Whether you're craving a tangy, vinegar-based coleslaw or the creamy classic version, pack your coleslaw with extras to make it anything but typical. Extra vegetable suggestions are green onions, red and white onions, sugar snap peas, cilantro, parsley, dill, cauliflower, radishes, celery, raw beets, julienne, bell peppers, cucumber, broccoli, and frozen peas, to name a few. Extra additions could include apples, pineapple tidbits, grapes, orange segments, shelled sunflower seeds, toasted sesame seeds, raisins, craisins, walnuts, pecans, almonds, and cheese, to name a few. Additions to your creamy dressings might include plain yogurt, sour cream, ranch dressing, poppy seed dressing, lime, lemon or orange juice, prepared mustard, cumin, onion powder, Mrs. Dash, lemon pepper, red pepper flakes, and apple cider vinegars, wine vinegars, celery seed, and honey, to name a few. And Helen has 3 coleslaw recipes that you can look online. One is dill pickle coleslaw, the next is everlasting coleslaw, and the last one is a craisin cheese coleslaw. It's making me hungry. Big Feels for Littles by Delcy Martin, for your listening ear. I had the pleasure of being able to attend Neepawa's craft sale at the Yellowhead Center. It was such a great event to connect the community with so many people attending. I walked into the building looking at all the bright lights and smiling faces, and then I looked over at my toddler and realized that she wasn't having such a great time. We had lured her to the event with promise of meeting Santa, and were happy to hear her excited squeals in the vehicle. That excitement quickly dissipated for her when she saw the crowds, heard the noises, and her anxiety took over. We encouraged her along, doing what good parents are supposed to do, saying, "You're okay," bribing her with candy and basically any other insane method of coaxing her in. We were blessed to get one of those classic crying on Santa's knee photos that most parents have at one point or another, and thanks to an excellent and patient photographer, one of her with a neutral face. We stayed for 20 minutes trying to get her excited about all the new things, but quickly realized this was way too much for her. I could have looked at this day as a complete and total failure. She wasn't happy to see Santa. She wasn't excited by all the smiling people and new and pretty things we could buy. What did I do wrong? This is a question that so many parents ask themselves, especially those of us with kids born during COVID. Rather than looking at this day as a complete failure, I tried to empathize with my daughter and connect with where her anxiety was coming from. The little ones that were born during COVID are generally having a harder time socially. There is naturally a lot more anxiety with large crowds, grocery stores, and having pressure to be social because they simply didn't have that exposure from infancy. Anxiety in children is often sparked by being overstimulated by, what does the word stimuli mean? What does it mean? It's anything that gets one of your main sense systems going. Crowds mean loud noises, and they are hard to identify. Children aren't adept at reading emotion yet, so a sea of faces is confusing. Smells of food and incense and gentle touches of bodies near one another seems mundane to me, but to my little, it counts as sensory overload, which manifests as anxiety. We need to remember that our littles are experiencing everything in the world for the first time. Their little brains are taking in a massive amount of information and trying to create meaning from that. I will continue to take my daughter to big events, even though I know she's scared, because avoidance will only feed her anxiety. However, in the moment when she is scared, I'm going to say, it's okay to be scared because fear is a normal and appropriate emotion for the situation. I'm going to give her a big hug to reassure her that I will be walking beside her through her fear, because that's my role as her mama. We are going to go together into battle against fear because I want to teach her that it's important to face our fears even when we are scared. Now this year again, the Neepawa District Palliative Care Program has light up this holiday season. If you it's a contribution in memory of a loved one. As you contribute, your memorial can be viewed in the window of Harris Pharmacy. The memory tree will be located at Mountain Avenue and Davidson Street, downtown Neepawa. Drop off your contribution at one of these Neepawa locations: Neepawa Hospital, It's Time Fashion and Gifts, the Neepawa Banner and Press, Home Hardware, Neepawa Pharmacy, and Harris Pharmacy. All right, and next on this page we have a great picture of the next NACI performance, like the High School Musical. This year it's Disney's The Little Mermaid Jr. Thursday, December 8th at 7:30, Friday, December 9th at 7:30, two shows on Saturday, December 10th at 1:30 and 7:30. That should be a good show. Next, we have a few pictures from the Parade of Lights that was in the Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce held its Parade of Lights event on Saturday, November the 26th. Businesses and organizations from across the area put in the effort to brighten up the Christmas season. And here we have 3 pictures of that. And at the Yellowhead Center, assistants Hannah and Hunter do their part to keep the Grinch from making off with some of the items donated during the Harris Pharmacy Food and Toy Drive held during the Neepawa Titans' recent home game. Fortunately, Mr. Grinch was on his best behavior. Donations from the event were given to the Salvation Army. And at the top it says, "Turns out you're not a mean one, Mr. Grinch." That's cute. And now we have a correction. In the November 25th edition of the Banner and Press, there were a few spelling errors missed in the editing process. On page 1, the last name for CAO for the town of Neepawa, Colleen Sensation, was misspelt. As well, on page 2, the names of Garrett Rempel and Brian Toderick were accidentally misspelt. So the Banner and Press apologizes for these errors. We have another couple of pictures. This one is a sit down with old Saint Nick. Dylan and Duke Phillips and Brody Steele from Wasagaming met Santa at Friends of Riding Mountain National Park on Saturday, November the 19th. That's nice. And here's a picture of the Neepawa Christmas Wish Sale, which took place on Saturday, November the 26th at the Yellowhead Hall. Now here's an advertisement featuring the Neepawa Titans Junior A Hockey Club. Come out to Neepawa's Yellowhead Center and cheer on the Neepawa Titans Junior team. The Titans have won most of their recent games, and the team is closing in on a playoff spot. The hockey action is very good, and the 50-50 pots are growing each week. Kids under 12 attending a local school get in free thanks to our partners. Multi-ticket game packs are on sale for $10 for $120, $5 for $65, and $3 for $30. Just in time for Christmas, there are new hats, hoodies, and clothing now in stock at the Titans store. The next home game, there's 2 games that Swan Valley will be here, December 2nd and 3rd at 7:30. And then December 16th, the Winnipeg Blues will be here at 7:30. Titans reign over the Dauphin Kings by the Neepawa Banner staff and press. The Neepawa Titans appear to have found a winning formula out on the ice of late. The team has won 4 of its last 5 MJHL games, including a weekend sweep of the defending league champions, the Dauphin Kings. On Friday, November 25th, the Titans earned themselves a decisive 5-1 win at home over the Kings. The scoring was divided up evenly amongst the Titans roster with 5 different goal scorers. Hayden Stocks and Cade Benson contributed first in the opening 20 minutes of play. Will Hyatt and John Blake followed up in the second period, while Cooper Kasprick added 1 more in the third period for Neepawa. Tyson Paz was the lone scorer for Dauphin with a goal in the second period. Benson was named first star of the game for Neepawa with a goal and 2 assists. John Blake was second star with a goal, and goaltender Mason Lebreau had 28 saves, so he was the third star. The same 2 teams would face off once again the next night, though this time it would be in Dauphin. This game would be much closer, but in the end, Neepawa still found the win, taking it by a score of 2-1. Briley Wood and Hayden Stocks both scored for the Titans in the first period. Dauphin replied exactly midway through the second, and after playing a midweek game in Winnipeg against the Blues, the Titans face a massive challenge this weekend from the Swan Valley Stampeders, who are 15-9-1. 1-1 with 32 points, who are second in the MJHL's Western Division. Both games will be at the Yellowhead Center with start times at 7:30. And still with hockey, the Farmers, this is a picture of the Neepawa Farmers that battled the Deloraine Royals. Here we have Kyle McDonald and Blake Jameson of Deloraine. They duke it out near the end of the game on Saturday, November 26th. Deloraine ended up winning the game by a score of 6-2. And still with hockey, the Neepawa High School hockey team, the Neepawa Tigers, played a pair of games last weekend in the Westmen High School Hockey League. The first game was on Friday, November 25th in Birtle against the Falcons. In this matchup, the Falcons defeated the Tigers 5-3. Neepawa followed with a home game on Sunday, November 27th against the Boissevain Broncos. For this game, the Tigers won 7-3. Unfortunately, more specific game details are light this week due to a combination of staff shortages due to illness and game stats being unavailable on the league website. The Banner and Press apologize and look forward to being in attendance at the Tigers' next home game, set for Wednesday, December 7th, versus the Major Pratt Trojans. Start time at the Yellowhead Center is scheduled for 7:30. Now we have also a advertisement about the Viterra Men's Provincial Curling Championship, which is going to be held in Neepawa at the Yellowhead Center from February the 8th to the 12th, and tickets are on sale now. Early bird week passes are selling for $125 if purchased between December 1st and December 31st. Then the pass will be extended to $150 if it's purchased after January the 1st. That should be an exciting week. And then the next page is a full advertising page about the Neepawa Rotary Club's major fundraiser, which is an online auction being held December 2nd to the 8th. So there is like lots, like over 150 things that are going to be up for bid. Proceeds go towards community projects. To view items online and to register to bid on items, go to neepawa.charity-auctions.ca. The bidding starts at 8 a.m. on Friday, December the 2nd. Watch our live winning bids report on NACTV at 9 p.m. on December 7th and 8th. Okay, what else do we have? And here we have something, Touchwood Park 26th Annual Charity Golf Tournament. Now this was held on July the 25th, 2022 in Neepawa. The Touchwood Park would like to thank the 148 golf participants and the following supporters whose generosity raised over $23,500. The funds raised will be allocated towards enhancing Touchwood Park's playground to become an accessible space, providing an inclusion opportunity for all community members. Okay. And as you know, the Neepawa hometown contest is being held right now. There's prizes of $1,500, $1,000, and $500, plus $2,600 in extra prizes. The draw is Monday, December the 12th. Visit any of the participating merchants for an entry form and entry details. And it gives quite a list of places in town that you can put your names in the draw. Shop Hometown is jointly sponsored by the Neepawa Chamber of Commerce, the Neepawa Banner Press, and the local businesses shown on this page. All right, so we'll go back. And I'll read Ken Waddell's article entitled Historical Foundations. Disclaimer, the views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the Neepawa Banner and Press. When we look back through the archived pages of our newspapers, we get a bird's eye view of how things were done over 100 years ago. Some things really stand out. Perhaps the first thing that jumps off the pages is the lack of what we would today call political correctness. Opinions and humor back in the day were pretty much unbridled. There was no filter on the editor's typewriters 100 or more years ago. They said whatever was on their minds, and sometimes their comments very bluntly called out politicians and citizens alike. We should probably not go back the almost vicious commentary that appeared in the old-time newspapers. That's best left to the internet and Twitter, satire intended. At least the very negative comments in papers from days of old could be attributed to a real person who could be tracked down and held accountable. That's often not possible in the internet world, and that is a very real problem. If you can't be identified, you probably shouldn't be saying it. Also, 100 plus years ago, the newspaper was pretty much the only source and place for discussion. There were no phones or computers, few movie theaters, and no radio or TV stations. No internet either. As far as advertising went, it was the newspaper, perhaps posters, and the Eaton's, Sears, and Hudson Bay catalogs. The newspaper was king. I will be the first to admit that newspapers have a lot of competition today, but I would also maintain that a good community newspaper is still near the top of the heap for local news, ads, and commentary. Newspapers are sadly missed when they disappear. Just ask the 20 communities in Manitoba that have lost their papers in the past 5 years. One very notable difference in comparing papers today with papers from the past is that the ads were much bigger and more creative. Admittedly, some of the claims in the ads were outlandish and quite unbelievable. Also, unlike today, there were very large ads for cigarettes, and some cigarette companies even claimed to improve your health. What? Because building an ad was quite expensive and labor intensive, ads were used over and over again. We still have a few of those old ads cast in lead or an early version of plastic. They were nailed to a wooden block to be placed in a frame to go on the printing press. A review of early history and then a review of more recent history clearly shows that the newspaper still has an important role to fill. King is too lofty a title, but leader might be an apt description. I think people understand that a good newspaper has to be a leader in local news, advertising, and opinion pieces. But there's a catch. Newspaper staff can't be everywhere all the time. The local newspapers that are left cover many communities stretched out over many miles. Everybody knows the cost of gas and labor, so it's no surprise that a newspaper staff can't be everywhere all the time. The good news is that it has never been easier to submit news, photos, ads, and opinion pieces to the local paper. Email is a godsend. Great stuff can be posted on Facebook, for example, but few Facebook posts have the reach of the local paper. Facebook contacts run in the dozens or occasionally hundreds. Most local community papers reach thousands. If a local paper circulates 2,000 papers, the industry standard is 2.3 people reached per paper printed. Papers have changed. Electronic media has its place, but the newspaper is still the information foundation. That said, everyone has to help strengthen that foundation. Next, we have Rita Friesen's article, Homebodies. It's entitled, Not a Hand Wringer in the Lot. People watching is one of my favorite pastimes. I learn a great deal from observing actions and reactions of others, about them and about myself. This week, I have been reflecting on the women in my life that have been the influencers, mentors, advisors, whether they knew it or not, and there is not a hand wringer in the lot. A few years ago, I was able to spend buckets of quality time with a woman who I had been watching for decades, and she never knew the impact she had on my life. I was so thankful that we had the opportunity to speak uninterrupted by life from our hearts. As I shared the moments where her life had impacted mine, she was amazed. I had witnessed her strength, her courage, and determination to continue fully living when her world was coming apart. I witnessed her God-given ability to forgive, forget, and rebuild a unit. She never was vocal about her struggles with the general public, though I am certain, well, I hope, that she shared with a close friend or confidant. When life presented me with an opportunity to exhibit forgiveness, forgetting, and rebuilding, I drew from her example. I am forever grateful. Some saw her as an ordinary, gaunt, and sometimes a rough person, but I saw her as an angel. Another woman who set a high standard for living experienced the trauma of World War II as a child. She adapted to life on the prairies as a war bride, raising a family, becoming involved in the community, and contributing to the workforce and being true to herself. She did not suffer fools gladly, chose her words, and delivered them with authority. She made her point. I only knew her for the last 3 decades of her long life, so I assume that some edges had already been rubbed off, but I never heard her complain. Always thankful for the support of family and friends, always honest, given many an opportunity to simply sit and wring her hands in despair, she did not. I have many aunts, 15 to be exact. Love them almost all the same and have grown from being their niece in many ways. There is one who provided me with a safe place, a place of acceptance and encouragement. Life on the farm was never easy. For years, the toilet was a cash and carry in the basement or a quick trip outside, even though the house had running water for sinks and the washing machine, and the shop and barn had every available advantage. She had huge gardens, loved flowers, birds, and trees. Her yard was an oasis on the flat prairie filled with ponds, birdhouses, and fruit trees. As her health declined, her sons bought her a golf cart to provide mobility, and she became adept at weed control from the seat. Her last years in town were the easiest. She never complained, always welcomed any visitor, and gave thanks freely. Not a wringer of hands, a get it done with grace woman. Looking back, these are 3 of the women that influenced my thinking and actions. No hand wringer here. Now, Neil Stroshine, Faithfully Yours. This week, his article is entitled, Are We Listening? In 29 days, we will bid farewell to 2022 and welcome the new year of 2023. How quickly this year has flown by. It's had its share of good times and bad, happy times and sad, achievements and failures, times of great gain and times of tragic, devastating loss. It's also been a year in which frustration with decisions made by those in leadership have led to freedom convoys, expletive-laden rhetoric aimed at government leaders, and extreme measures used to end the protests. And while the protests may have ended, the frustration that fueled them is getting more entrenched by the day. To the frustration, we add the confusion produced by mixed messages from those in whose wisdom and integrity we should be able to trust. When they say one thing and do another, trust is eroded. When they openly violate laws that we are expected to obey, trust is destroyed. When they refuse to be transparently honest and accountable for their actions, they lose the respect of those they were elected to serve. When confusion and frustration take root in people's minds, they produce hopelessness and despair. That is when people will listen to and vote for anyone who promises them a tomorrow that is better than today. Unfortunately, as history has shown us, those running for office can be very good at making promises, but very poor at keeping them. And the voters often trade one form of disappointment for another and experience even more hopelessness and despair. Is there hope for a world like ours? Yes, there is. Where can it be found? In the same place where it's always been, in a person whose earthly life began 2,000 years ago in a cave just outside of the little town of Bethlehem. That person is Jesus, to whom the prophet Isaiah gave the following names: Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Every name is significant. When the best human wisdom fails to solve the problems we face, we need a wonderful counselor. When all our power and resources aren't enough to meet the needs that people have, we need someone with the power and resources of a mighty God. When our resources can only provide short-term band-aid solutions to our problems, we need an everlasting Father to provide solutions that stand the test of time. When we are looking for someone who can bring lasting peace to our troubled hearts, peace in our homes, families, communities, and world, we need a Prince of Peace. And all of these qualities can be found in the one whose birth we commemorate at this time of the year, in Jesus, who is God the Son, God revealed in human form. He walked among us for 33 and a half years, died, rose again, and ascended into heaven. Now, by his Spirit, he fills the heaven and the earth. He is so close to us that he can hear our slightest whispers when we call to him for help. He knows all about the problems we face. He understands our hopelessness and despair. His knowledge and wisdom can provide solutions that no government or group of governments could ever provide. But he will not impose himself on us. He waits for us to reach that level of hopelessness and desperation that will cause us to cry out to him and say, "Okay, God, we'll do it your way." God is calling us to do just that. Are we listening? If not, we should be. Now, Addie Oberlin's observation article. It's called The Uncertainty of Life. In the New Testament, James 2, verse 4, we read the following words: "Yet you do not know what your life will be like tomorrow. You are just a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away." What can this verse from the Bible mean to us today? Why did God give such a warning to humans? We like planning, predicting events in this life. We have calendars with encircled dates and notes. We sit down and calculate the costs and have this tendency to think we are in control. However, we all know that calamities sooner or later come into our lives. We read and watch the news about some catastrophic and tragic event somewhere in the world. Too often we think that what happened to those people will never happen to us living in Manitoba, Canada. When you read the obituaries of those who died recently, you should visualize your own name in the column. Natural disasters, wars, and global pandemics should be reminders that death might be just around the next corner. Life is a loan from God. The Lord gives it and he takes it, and God can take it, and however he wills. Yes, it may sound cruel, but physical death is determined for all of us, whether by heart attack, stroke, cancer, a natural disaster, or a respiratory virus. Death is a scheduled divine appointment. Tragedies help us to get rid of the overconfidence we have that we are in control of our destiny. Natural disasters and serious sicknesses provide people with strong evidence that life on earth is brief and uncertain. What would you do today if you knew you would die by the weekend? We must do those urgent things now. Are you at peace with God when your last minute comes? Did you repent of your sins and believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Today is the day of salvation. Tomorrow might be too late. By Pastor Vlad Makiev of Neepawa. Thumbs up and thumbs down. The first one is a thumbs up. Thumbs up to the Neepawa Co-op and Safeway grocery stores staff for their participation in the food rescue program for Neepawa Salvation Army Food Bank. Besides diverting all this usable food from the landfill, it's helping to meet a very large need in our community for members experiencing food insecurity. Great job for a great program. Another thumbs up is by Barb Bone. Thumbs up to Monty Simon's November 25th, 22 letter entitled The Need for a Vision. Very well articulated. I agree 110%. And lastly, from Tangled Threads Quilt Guild. To the person who took a quilt from our outdoor display, it wasn't there to take. If you need a quilt for warmth, we can get you one. All right, I think that is almost it. I was going to read just a couple of things from the looking back section. I thought this was interesting. From 60 years ago, December the 4th, so that was in 1962. A small ocean of salt exists right under Neepawa, a little more than 100 feet beneath the surface of the earth. This deposit is the source of the salt produced by the Canadian Salt Company in Neepawa. Their product, Windsor Salt, has become a household word across the country. Although the company here has been taking salt from its well since 1933 at the rate of 85 tons of salt and 8 tons of trisal a day, there has been no significant decrease in the level or chemical composition of the brine. At present, the company is drawing brine from the deposit at the 1,450 foot level. This deposit contains 62% salt. The remainder is water and a few minor impurities. There is also a brine stream at the 1,200 foot level, which contains 60% brine deposit by the rock formations, lifts the brine all but 300 feet to the surface. Thus, it has to be pumped only the last 300 feet. I thought that was interesting. Anyways, that concludes our reading of the Neepawa Banner and Press this week. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we will see you next week. So bye for now.